Google Helpful Content Update. I'm Doug Cunnington, and I do these live streams every week here. We have what seems to be a large number of people waiting. Usually there's not more than a couple, but it's good to have you. Let me know in the chat if you could hear me. Let me know if you've been here before to one of the live streams, or if you just tuned in because you thought I was going to have some breaking news, which I'll just go ahead and tell everyone like off the bat. There's no breaking news. I don't have any big insights, but we'll look at the information that Google has published for us. And if you notice the theme music rolling in there, that is the theme music from my podcast. I have a podcast as well. It's called The Doug Show. We talk about the same things like affiliate marketing and SEO. And you can, find the link in the description. It's on all the podcast players out there. But I mean, I have the music and I have the technology to play the music, but I never do. And I just added it recently. So when I remember, I'll do it. It's pretty casual around here. So I don't sweat it too much. But if you have questions, if you have observations, if you have any insight, or if you think you have insight, we'll talk about that, about the helpful content update, let us know in the chat. And we have Viral News said hello, what's up? Marcus, what's happening? And we also have Fruit Bat Cat, good name there. And let's see, we have Rana and Daniel as well. So thanks everybody for hopping in. Everyone say hello. You can ask questions. Typically we do Q&A kind of at the end if it's relevant, maybe throughout. And today, like I said, and I'll mention it again, I don't have any additional insight. I have no data. We're going to look at what Google has published over on, what is this? developers.google.com. So if you're particularly nerdy, which if you're watching this, sorry to tell you, there's a strong likelihood of that, but you may have already read it. But we'll go through it today. We'll hear what other people think. I'll give my, again, uninformed commentary. We're just all along for the ride. But it's good to be familiar with what's out there. Oh, and we got Tony on too. What's up, Tony? Good to see you. And Philip says that he got a boost, but you think it's fake traffic. You wonder if that's part of the rollout. That would be good. Send traffic from faraway lands, so you're thinking it's spam. Ruby is here too. Now, one thing I will say, and for the fine people in the audience who have been watching these live streams or listen to my podcast, you know that I have said many times, probably once per week on these live streams, I'll get a question that is very specific. It's very particular. And the question is this option A good for the SEO? Or is option B good for SEO? Or even option C? And usually if it's a very specific, complex answer and question with multiple variables, I won't be able to answer it. Most people won't be able to answer it. We might be able to give some anecdotal information and data. We saw X happen one time, and it's not super useful because you just have an N of one. So in those cases, I usually just say, forget about SEO, take off your tinfoil hat, and just think about the end user and if the content's helpful. So my seemingly lazy answer to a lot of those questions is exactly what this update is probably trying to do. Just forget about the SEO for a second. Stop trying to optimize every little thing and just help the fucking visitor a little bit. Get out of your head and just try to figure out what they're looking for and answer the question a little faster. Don't write 5,000 words when 500 will do. All right. Tony says, and that's Learn Medicare Billing. I interviewed Tony, so check out that interview. I don't remember when it was, but someone probably can post a link in here. Tony says, once again, I think it's an update hold on. Let me try to read here. This is going to be a lot of reading today, so I need to concentrate hard. Once again, I think this update is a great opportunity for small content producers who write our own content and are licensed professionals. Perfect. Well said. Masher's here too, and so is Joanne, our friend from the north. All right. Before we get into the meat and potatoes for today, I need to make a couple announcements, a little housekeeping and all that stuff. First, if you like the live streams and stuff, hit the thumbs up. If I answer your question, if you dislike it, you can hit the thumbs down. That's cool. It's not for everybody. Couple quick notes in the description here. I want to point out some of the links. I've been doing sort of a little series on AI tools. So I put together some courses and resources, or it's in the form of a course, but it's just a set of resources. It's free. You can enter your name and email. My dad was in town for like 10 days, so I basically didn't do any more AI stuff, but I do have some exciting AI content and information and something you can participate in that I'll get to in just a second. If you want notifications for YouTube live streams, there's a link for that. It's the tail end of Content Month for Ezoic, so you can still catch this. I think we're in the last week here, but I'm pretty sure you can go back and watch the archives probably, but you could follow the link and get more information there. Big thanks to Odys Global, the source for aged and premium domains. I've been working with them for a long time, I think pretty well over a year at this point. And one awesome thing is there's a sale, I believe, until August 30th. The details are in there. You could follow the link in the description. Save 15% on a domain. So if you had your eye on one or you think you might be interested, we'll actually go take a look in a minute, but check that out. And finally, Ezoic Leap to help your site load faster. You could follow the link there. And the good thing with Ezoic is there's no traffic minimum, so you can start using tools like Leap to help you get green and core web vitals. And I know a handful of more people are popping in there, so let me know if you have any information or actually real data and results about the Google update. Have you seen anything out there specifically on your site? And it would be great to get some more information there. The final announcement, which I'll mention again, is there's a free Content Accelerator program. It is associated with one of the other AI tools out there. It's called Outranking. So I know a lot of people have actually suggested Outranking. The goal of this accelerator is to publish 30 posts in 30 days and build a system for scaling content. It is free. You have to be accepted. So you need to have like a site already, maybe a little bit of momentum. So if you don't have your niche yet, it's probably not a good fit for you. But if you have a site already, or if you're in a position where you're like, I want to publish a lot in a short amount of time, this is a way to do it. As everyone knows here, most likely, or at least the regular viewers, I have been a pretty big opponent, or at least antagonistic and negative about AI tools for like, I don't know, 2+ years or so. And finally, in the last month, I got enough people telling me, check out the tools, they're a little better than they were. So here we are. I'm testing them out. I'm giving it a fair shot. I'm trying to find out what tools are good for certain things, what tools are bad at certain things. And I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible so that if I don't like a tool, if I don't like a particular feature, I will tell you because I'm not in their back pocket. In this case, I was invited by the founders of Outranking to share my knowledge on niche and authority sites and building content sites in general. So after we chatted and I let them know my background with AI tools, it looked like a good fit and we're moving forward with it. So it's starting up soon. You can get more information. Again, this is like a content sprint situation and you're using an AI tool. And I'm mainly going to talk about how to do things without using an AI tool or things that are pretty much agnostic to using an AI tool. It's more conceptual and strategy. So we're working together. We'll see how it goes. And you can sign up for free. There's more information over there. The big thing is you do have to have an Outranking subscription. There is a 7-day money back guarantee, so you could sign up, start using it. I have an affiliate link down there, so that's the only way I would benefit from this. But I think if people know me here, you know I'm pretty straight. So I don't promote too many things. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description. All right, lots of good info here. So let's see. I'm just gonna say hello to the rest of the folks in the chat, and then we'll hop in, start taking a look at the actual documentation, the things that we should know, and Google even calls this what creators should know about Google's helpful content update, just published a couple days ago. All right, Marcus says, sometimes I feel stupid for spending so much time on my pillar pages. I do a lot of research beforehand, but they seem to rank high. I wish I could speed up my process. Any tips? And Marcus further says the research is taking more time than writing, and you feel like it helps, and blah, blah, blah. So I would say do what you're doing. So you're describing it as research, but really it is the prerequisite. It is part of the writing process, and you're ranking better than your competitors. So I would say keep doing that. There's a strong chance that they are not doing that. So I think you get that sort of benefit if you're an expert in the topic area, or if you become an expert in the topic area by doing the research. So keep doing the research. If you want to speed it up, then it would be really like a productivity kind of situation, not anything around like specific research. My hunch is some of the best research and some of the best insights and ideas that you're going to get, that's going to be through what looks to be really sloppy research that takes you all over the place. The most interesting ideas are probably going to be from those areas, because you're connecting ideas that you can't just go look up quickly. You're connecting ideas that, they're not easily connected, just to use the word again. And this is one of my main points with the AI tools. If it's something fairly straightforward where there's a lot of but if there's a lot of data online, there's a lot of information, maybe the AI tool can do a pretty good article on, I'm trying to think of a good example, something more original, maybe something like how to sign up. This is a bad example, but how to sign up for a specific credit card. That's probably straightforward. There's probably a list of steps. It's probably been documented elsewhere because there's affiliate programs associated with those. So there's probably a lot of information that can be regurgitated out, and it's probably accurate. If I'm trying to come up with a good idea for a YouTube video that's connecting a podcast that I listen to, a book, and a TV series that I'm watching on Hulu, I don't think an AI tool is going to be able to connect those dots. It might be able to talk about each one of those things independently, but you're not going to be able to draw the thread and help someone reach some conclusion. That's a big flaw. So if you're writing something that's just sort of, kind of basic, and you're not coming up with new original ideas, then an AI tool might be great. If you're trying to come up with original ideas, then it may be a little tougher. Now, some tools may be able to, take your bullet point list and then put that into a essay format that's a little more usable, and then maybe you could use that as your first draft, and that could be really helpful for some people that are not super skilled in writing, or at least like the first draft. So, okay. Anyway, Marcus, don't worry about it. Take a long time doing research. That's probably a good thing. All right. Oh yeah, this is good. Cyprian says, Doug gives in, does an AI video, and Google reacts. Yeah, exactly. And I'm still, actually, I need to talk to the founders over at Outranking because here's the deal. I've been asking for just about a month now, I've been asking people if they are successful using AI tools with niche or authority sites on a big level, not a few $100 a month, but like a few $1,000s per month. Just for the record, no one has emailed me, no one has reached out, no one said they've even heard of a rumor that is true. So, yeah, from where I sit, it's interesting. Everyone that says that they're using AI tools, they are awesome because there's a lot of people in the chat here, and I'm not going to talk shit about people that are making time to listen to me talk. But you're beginners. You haven't had a big success yet. Otherwise, you would have said, "Hey, I'm killing it over here." So I will 100% interview the people as long as they're competent enough to, communicate and be on a podcast and the YouTube channel. I want to hear from them. I'm trying to learn. I'm giving it a good shot. And Cyprian is just exactly right. Google, Google is coming out. So, all right. And let's see. Marcus says, I use AI tools for research, like phrase and outranking and rewriting suggested parts. Cool. And okay, and Marcus says, did I join Outranking's community? There are some examples of people who have succeeded with it. No, but if you tell them to, I'm not in communities. I have low interest, and technically I got plenty of time. I do have the time to participate in communities, but I just like, if I get in there, there's all this other shit in Facebook, and it just distracts me, and everything else seems to be fine in my life without these communities. But I may have to go in there now that I'm chummy with the crew. I could probably say, hey, I want to do interviews. Who's successful? Okay. I've delayed enough. We can start reading some of what's going on out there. And for the people that are just hopping in, thanks for joining in here. Let me know where you're from and if you've attended these before. If you find these enjoyable, you could hit the thumbs up. You could even subscribe to the channel, but if you watch a couple of them, Google will probably suggest them. So we're going to be talking about what you should know about Google's helpful content update. So I'm going to share my screen, and we're just going to go through what Google has actually published out there for us to know. And, typically there's not a huge amount of actionable information. And I think part of it is, Google's been fairly consistent. I think everybody should be able to see most of this. Google's been fairly consistent the last several years. They discourage link building. They don't want you to buy links. They don't want you to do anything weird. They want the links to be, real. Real in that your content has enough merit that someone thought, I want to provide a resource, a reference that someone can go check out. So Google's been consistent with that for a pretty long time. The other part is to have helpful content. They're so on board with that. They call this one the helpful content update. And really, for several years, I would say, I don't keep up with each one of the updates, but for several years, Google has been trying to make sure that the user experience is good and positive, and that when people search for something, they find the information that they're looking for. There have been other updates that target specific product reviews because there are so many product review type sites that there was low quality. There was really again, just a lot of regurgitation of information where people maybe don't know anything about the topic. Maybe someone created a site and they hired writers who didn't know anything about the topic or SEO to write about the keyword that they were given, and they literally don't know anything about it, so they really are just regurgitating a lot of fluff, a lot of garbage, a lot of long content that should be short. So now we're at a point where people are publishing, huge amounts of content. People are publishing a lot of informational content. Some niches have sort of unlimited keywords out there, and you could just keep writing ad nauseum. You could have hundreds of writers working all day long and have tens of thousands of articles answering, quick questions, things that are very templated. And sometimes those are, sometimes those are great and those are really helpful. Other times it's just garbage. And again, the people don't know what they're talking about. There has been speculation that this update, and we saw it even in the chat here, that this update has something to do with the prevalence of the AI tools for informational content. I've only heard that in rumors, so I don't know any of that to be true, but it's interesting to speculate. So let's just read a little of this here. So Google search is, this is verbatim, I'm going to do my best to read this. So Google search is always working to better connect people to helpful information. To this end, we're launching what we're calling the Helpful Content Update. That's part of a broader effort to ensure people see more original, helpful content written by people. I think that's probably important, for people in search results. Below is more about the update and things creators should consider. So I think this emphasis here around creating helpful content written by people for people is interesting. So I think we can read into that and say, helpful content written by people, so not AI tools. Humans are back there writing it. And then for people means you're writing it for the audience, for the visitor on your site, not for Google. These are all my interpretations here, but you could read it that way, of course. Now, before we get into the focus on people first content section here, we'll go ahead and look at some of the chat. We had some more chatter going on here. I want to make sure I don't lose it. Josh mentions that there's plenty of keywords, I think, in the keto space. I think that's probably what we're talking about, plenty of content. All right. And Cyprian says, I can't imagine people with a successful blog admitting to AI tools now and wanting a link from the podcast to their blog, talk about signals to Google. Well, they wouldn't. So one thing, basically 99% of the interviews I do, I tell the people, don't reveal your site. Don't reveal your site. There's too many people with too much time on their hands. And if you tell what your successful site is, then people are going to bug you, basically. All right. And then Marcus says, it depends on how you use the AI. If you use it to write the articles without editing, it's not going to work. And the problem, Marcus, is when all this shit came out a couple years ago, that was the promise. It was like, put in your keyword, you get an article on the other end, or you even get a paragraph. And it was like garbage. It was absolutely terrible when I used it. And I was doing simple stuff and I was like, I don't have time for this. So I came back later when the tools were a little bit more mature. And Marcus further says, if you write the copy yourself and use AI to improve the quality of the copy, it helps a lot. And someone said, 8 says, as it comes to choosing a niche, would you go for one that's more popular in the UK and Europe rather than the US, but try to rank for all countries altogether? Personally, I usually go for the US, but I am in the US and it's a bigger market. So that's usually why I go for it. But there's nothing wrong to aim for something that's more popular in the UK or Europe or a specific country. Nothing wrong with that at all. Just understand the different sizes in the markets. Okay, and then there are still a couple of keywords for that niche in the US, but much more on the old continent. Would you put all the affiliates together in one place? Sure, that would be fine. That'd be fine. All right. And Cyprian says true, but there's so much panic. Doug, you interviewed a guy doing really well with an AI tool, even used it for a book report. New interview with him in a few months, maybe. So Cyprian, he he was able, so that this is a specific interview, so he wasn't earning, to my knowledge, he wasn't earning a lot of money on the blog where he was using the AI content as much. It was just ranking fairly quickly for very low competition keywords. But yeah, it could be interesting to do an interview in a few months. But yeah, it was a college kid, and he was like, I got nothing to lose. I'm just going to give it a shot and try a couple things here. Okay, so let's get back over here, and I'll hop back to the chat in a minute. Next section here is focus on people first content. The helpful content update aims to better reward content where visitors feel they've had a satisfying experience, while content that doesn't meet a visitor's expectations won't perform as well. So if you think about that, how would Google be judging that? Probably the metrics. Maybe it's something about like time on site. Maybe it's whether they bounce, go back to the search engine result page, the SERP, and click on other results there. Do they go back to the SERP and then search for something else? Do they just rephrase the search? Are they searching for something further down the line in that set of queries, for example? Do they search for one of the related searches that's listed right there? Maybe they look at the people also ask. What should we aim for? Well, I don't know. I don't know, but I think if you have an idea, the kind of person, the kind of visitor and searcher that would Google that specific term, if you understand them a little bit, then you could probably provide the best information. And, maybe if someone Googles something, they go to your page, they learn something, and then they Google like the next step in the process. Maybe that's good. Maybe they only spend like a minute or two there because they read your answer and they understand what they need to based on that first query. And then they go back to Google and search for, step 2 in the set of steps of whatever it is. So they might not spend very much time on your page. They may not interact with anything else on your page, but they actually found what they wanted to. So it could be like kind of a shorter amount of time. It may be, it may look like a bounce, but it may actually be a good metric to have. Next, how can you ensure you're creating content that will be successful with our new update? By following our long-standing advice and guidelines, which are links that go to, I think, very long documents. So you could follow those guidelines to create content for people, not search engines. So they say it for verbatim there. So not for the search engines, for people. So people first content creators focus on creating satisfying content while utilizing SEO best practices and bring searchers additional value. Answering yes to the questions below mean you're probably on the right track with a people first approach. Do you have an existing or intended audience for your business or site that would find the content useful if they came directly to you? Does your content clearly demonstrate firsthand expertise and a depth of knowledge? For example, expertise that comes from having actually used a product or service or visiting a place. We'll come back to that in a second. Does your site have a primary purpose or focus? After reading your content, will someone leave feeling they've learned enough about a topic to help achieve their goal? Will someone reading your content leave feeling like they had a satisfying experience? And finally, are you keeping in mind our guidance for core updates and product reviews? Okay, so going back, a lot of what I've talked about in the past and currently is product reviews. So, back in the day, we would not buy all the products, and I think a lot of people don't buy all the products now, but they may do like deep research like Marcus is doing. So maybe you go read forums, maybe you watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you read the user manual, and you have a pretty strong understanding about the product. If you have firsthand knowledge of using it, like maybe you don't own it, but maybe you went to a store and like demoed the tool or product in some way, well, that potentially counts. And one way that is probably a really good one, a very strong signal, is if you have like original images and original video. Again, you can sort of get around actually owning the product and testing it. For example, I give an example of like cameras and camera lenses, and those kind of products are really expensive. If a company is not sending you those products, it can be pretty tough to pay for all of them. And then if you do have the budget to pay for all of them, then you have like all this gear laying around. So you might be able to have a reasonably good review based on other people's firsthand knowledge. Now that would be kind of getting around it, and they are specifically saying, Google's specifically saying firsthand expertise. That's holding the product. But I can't tell if they're saying firsthand. Yeah, it's just firsthand expertise and a depth of knowledge. So you could have a depth of knowledge and not own a product, for example. Or if I was reviewing beers, another one of my hobbies, if I am, generally talking about a certain style of beer, I might be able to give the broad impression of what a specific beer is supposed to be. But if I haven't tasted that specific beer, then who wants to hear my opinion on something I haven't tasted? So maybe there's like degrees of how important it is too. All right. Next one here to highlight is, does your site have a primary purpose or focus? So this might be, are you focused in on a niche? Do you have a topical area that you're demonstrating some expertise? Maybe you have a content cluster, right? Are you publishing random stuff that doesn't really fit into other areas? And one thing to throw back to the question that Cyprian said here, the person that I interviewed that is doing really well. So again, to my knowledge, he wasn't using an AI tool for the site that he was making thousands from. So he had a couple different sites, and I just want to emphasize that. So I do a lot of interviews, so I can't blame you for mixing up some of the details there. All right. As we keep going on here, we'll get into this avoid creating content for search engines first in just a second. I'm going to hop over and answer some questions. Thanks for the people that are hopping on here. Philip says, do you know if any sites have been affected yet? I don't know. I think it just started rolling out like yesterday. John says, do you think using first-person language such as I, me, my will be beneficial to product reviews? Google may think firsthand experience is being given. Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think you probably should have been doing that anyway. That is kind of how, people write on the web. It's a lot more first person. We're not writing like a journal, a journal submission or something academic. So yeah, as far as like, do I think we can trick Google into firsthand experience by using first person language? The answer is no, probably not on that, since all you have to do is like change it to first person. So, right. And Ruby says, AI is great for helping with grammar, flow, sentence structure, not just facts. Perfect. Yeah. And that's what, that's what I was corrected on after a while. People were like, well, you could just, put in information and then it'll form the paragraphs for you. So that can be helpful. Philip says, how come Google only give you a couple days this time around before they update, not like last time, like Core Vitals? Don't know. I have no clue. I got no inside knowledge. And there, Philip, just you, I don't know how new you are, but sometimes updates come out and then they tell you afterwards. So Google can they just do whatever the fuck they want. They don't owe us anything. We don't owe them anything either. So keep that in mind too. Like if you're like, hey, I don't want to do this anymore, like you can go to a different platform where, you're relying on traffic from, not a search engine. So yeah, I don't know why they told us a couple days before. I did notice, I'm like, it was just, they told us, I think last week, and then, yeah, it's just rolling right out. Who knows how fast it'll be either. Maybe we'll get to it here. Oh yeah, we will get to it in just a second. And Reese says, has the update started rolling out yet? And it does say it'll start rolling out next week. And it could be a few weeks, up to 2 weeks to roll out everything. They'll let us know. All right, going through here, I'm just taking a look at the chat, everybody. All right, and Marcus does give a tip, like if you focus on European markets, they're smaller and fragmented and there's less competition, but it's smaller. Okay, and someone's goat says, does your site have a primary focus? Is an interesting one, as broad sites, especially big brands, have typically done well regardless of this line of approach. Yeah, so that'll be pretty interesting, because there's basically big news sites that have reviews on just random, like anything, like they just put together a whole affiliate content area of their site, and they have nothing to do with any of the topic areas. I'm sure they hired good writers, but generally it could just be garbage and almost like a listicle, like not a true kind of review. And I think of big sites like Outdoor Gear Lab, Baby Gear Lab, like they test all the gear, they have original photos, they have a very authentic and sort of expertise and a lot of authority behind like the system that they have, and they focus on a certain area. So I would assume that like something like Outdoor Gear Lab should be able to crush those other sorts of big sites like that. All right, I'm going to try and get through a little bit more of the chat here. What's up? Simplified Gardening, Tony over there, and and Marcus says you're confused about first-hand expertise. You're worried about it. You write computer reviews and you don't own, but if there's a way to get around it. Yeah, so I think I gave you a couple ideas. So if you do research, you can provide more information and make comparisons. And I mean, if you are able to help someone make a decision or provide more information in a clearer way, then that could be valuable. All right, let's hop back before we run out of time. And I do need to give a quick shout out to Odys Global, the source for premium age domains, and they do have a 15% off sale. So you just have 7 days. I think it's till, so that math works. So it's until August 30th. And you can, browse around. They have a very good filtering system over here. If you are looking for something specific, and again, you could save 15%. So if you had your eye on one, you could save probably a few $100 or more. If you join using my affiliate link, you can get $100 into your account. And if you buy something, well, I might get a commission. Let's see if there's anything fun or interesting here. Let's see here. Dot spotting. I don't know what that is. Let's see. Dot spotting. There's a dog there, so I thought that could be fun. So this, you could use this age domain to focus on GPS trackers and other navigational devices targeting at travelers, cartographers, and digital nomads. I think the cartographer market is pretty small these days, but I guess they're out there. Anyone watch Arrested Development? Like Buster went to school for cartography. Anybody remember that? All right. So you could have different devices, brands. You could have a lot of informational content, how to, different routes and stuff like that, pros and cons, and so on. I'm not sure. There could be some potential for digital products here, especially if there's specific software that would be useful for the like tracking or like mapping things out. So anyway, this is something you could check out. And if you take a look at the old archives here, what were they doing? So yeah, they were just like, it was like maps, city tracking. Okay. So that's pretty interesting. So you may be able to do something with that. And these age domains, the big value is the links they have. So there's a link from the Atlantic, MIT.edu, Media Shift, Venture Beat, several other EDUs, and yeah, it looks pretty cool overall. Silicon Valley Watcher, and so on. So you can check it out. There's a link in the description if you want to learn more about this specific domain or just browse around for the others. So we'll look a little bit more at what Google is telling us here. Avoid creating content for search engines first. So this is one of the things that I do harp on where I talk about just thinking about the user. Don't worry about the SEO thing. It'll lead you to potentially make weird decisions. So our advice about having a people first approach does not invalidate following SEO practices, such as those covered in the SEO guideline or the guide. SEO is a helpful activity when it's applied to a people first content. However, content created primarily for search engine traffic is strongly correlated with content that searchers find unsatisfying. So how do you avoid taking a search engine first approach? Answering yes to some or all these questions is a warning sign. I'm not going to read them all. I'll just hit a couple of them here, a few here. Is the content primarily to attract people from search engines rather than made for humans? Are you producing lots of content on different topics in hopes that some of it might perform well in search results? So this, highlights the comment from before. Are you using extensive automation to produce content on many topics? So this could be interpreted as AI tools. It could also be interpreted as more of like a database approach where you're reusing content and using automation and programmatically putting together your content. Are you just summarizing what others have to say without adding much value? So back to Marcus's point, you can summarize what other people say. You can summarize other information out there, but if you can add value to it, that's good. So for example, with your computer example, you may be able to talk about the specs, you may be able to talk about a specific computer, but you could add your own value by saying, if you do a lot of video editing, you may want to make sure you have a good GPU and a lot of RAM, something like that. So you could add a little bit more information that's practical, not just regurgitate what is out there. Are you writing to a particular word count because you've heard or read that Google has a preferred word count? And the answer is no, we don't. It's like clickbait. Are you writing for a particular word count? Hint, we don't have one. Did you decide to enter a niche topic area without any real expertise, but mainly because you thought you'd get traffic? Does your content promise to answer a question that actually has no answer, such as suggesting there's a release date for a product, movie, or TV show when one isn't confirmed? And that is sort of pure clickbait. When that happens, when there's no information, they don't actually ever really tell you the answer that the title indicates. All right, and as we're looking at how the update works, if you have other questions, feel free to type them in. I will have a hard stop here. I was actually going to stop a minute ago, but everything seems to be going well. So I'm gonna keep going until the bottom of the hour, 14 more minutes here. But if you have questions, I'm just gonna blast through. So how the update works. The update will start rolling out next week. We'll post on Google ranking updates page when it begins and when it is fully rolled out, which could take up to 2 weeks. The update introduces a new site-wide signal that we consider among many other signals for ranking web pages. Our systems automatically identify content that seems to have little value, low added value, or is otherwise not particularly helpful to those doing searches. Any content, not just unhelpful content, on sites determined to have relatively high amounts of unhelpful content overall is less likely to perform well in search, assuming there is other content elsewhere from the web that's better to display. Hello, run-on sentence. When you read it, it's fairly clear, but okay, for this reason, removing unhelpful content should help the rankings of your other content. So what is being said there is, if your site has a lot of unhelpful content, your whole site is going to get impacted. So this is a site-wide thing. It's not just going to hit the unhelpful content. It's going to hit everything. If you remove the unhelpful content, which I'm pretty sure they won't tell you what is unhelpful, your other rankings could improve. A natural question some will have is how long it will take a site to do better if it removes unhelpful content. That's a good question. Sites identified by this update may find the signal applied to them over a period of months. Our classifier for this update runs continuously, allowing it to monitor newly launched sites and existing ones. As it determines that the unhelpful content has not returned in the long term, the classification will no longer apply. The classifier process is entirely automated using a machine learning model. It is not a manual action nor a spam action. Instead, it's just a new signal and one of many signals Google evaluates to rank content. So it could take a little while before they get back around to you. So it could take months. Who knows? This means that some people first content on sites classified as having unhelpful content could still rank well if there are other signals identifying that people first content is helpful and relevant to a query. Doesn't that contradict what they just said? I don't know. The signal is also weighted. Sites with a lot of unhelpful content may notice a stronger effect. In any case, for the best results, be sure you've removed unhelpful content and are also following our guidelines. Okay, I'm going to reread this one because I think it does contradict. This means that some people first content on sites classified as having unhelpful content could still rank well if there are other signals identifying the people first content as helpful and relevant. Okay. Then back up here, any content, not just unhelpful content. So I'm just going to take out this part. Any content on sites determined to have relatively high amounts of unhelpful content overall is less likely to perform well in search. Okay, so it's just less likely, assuming there is other content elsewhere on the web that's better. Okay. So if you have unhelpful content, it could impact your whole site. If you have some unhelpful content, but you also have people first helpful content, that could still rank. So whatever that means. This update impacts English searches globally to begin with, and we plan to expand to other languages in the future. Over the coming months, we will continue refining how the classifier detects unhelpful content and launch further updates to better reward people-first content. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact them on Twitter or start a discussion at the Search Central forums, which I'm sure is super helpful. Okay, as we go, I'm going to point out, I'm going to answer some questions again here, but we got this niche website Content Accelerator is put on by the Outranking crew. Let me zoom back out here. Outranking, and it's free. You just have to have Outranking as a tool, and there's a affiliate link in the description, so I'd get a commission. I know a few people said they already signed up, and the goal is to publish or create 30 posts in 30 days. So they needed an expert in the niche site area. So after we chatted about it and I let them know my general approach and attitude, they were like, sure, you can, I'm going to talk for a few minutes for a few of the weeks. So just cover a little tiny section. But yeah, if you scroll down, my little face is on here. So that's Pan Kill. And he and I will be doing some of the presentation there. So it is free. And there's some other FAQs here, so you could follow the link in the description to check it out. Let's go back here and see. Oh man, a lot of chat, and I bet there was a lot of answers to questions that I was asking along the way here. Rana says, "Is it necessary to run ads for newbies websites to get traffic?" No. No. Okay. And then Tony does give a tip, like go to a store, use it, take a few pictures, visit tech fairs that'll allow you to test the products. Yeah. And you can go to different conventions or whatever, and just, you could actually get access to stuff. Like if you try, and if you are part of the industry, you can get access to products, services, all that kind of stuff. Marcus says, do you think using we instead of I and me is an issue? No, I don't think so. You could have a writing team. I don't think that level of detail matters much. It's probably irrelevant. All right. Mike says that Alex over at WP Eagle is using a lot of AI. Yeah, he's been doing some case studies with that. I haven't talked to him in a bit. And Tony mentions that Alex is using AI, but he's editing it. So, he's altering it. And, from what I heard, his sites have been going up and down. I don't know where it's at right now. All right, Dan, what's going on? And quick other note, since we have a handful of people here, you can sign up for notifications to know when I go live. It's not very reliable on the YouTube side. Some people get the notifications late, but if you sign up for the notification, there's a link in the description. I send an email out an hour beforehand. All right, a lot of stuff. A lot of discussion in the chat. Okay. All right. Sonia says, when is the Google update? Has it rolled out yet? So I just read the stuff, and they're starting to roll it out this week per my understanding, but it'll take a couple weeks potentially. And Sonia says, you've seen a positive trend upward for a few days. Cool. Yeah. Who knows? And as we learned from the last couple updates, especially, whatever you see in the beginning may not hold. We saw some people get hit and then it recovered, and then it got hit again. Some people got a lot of traffic for a week and then it dropped back down. So you never really know. Oh, and Elvis says, Jasper AI has AI art and it can render products. You saw one for PlayStation. All right, a lot of talk on the laptop stuff. Okay. Dan says, I think the new signal is rolling out now. I'm noticing some serious divergence on a few sites. Anyone else starting to see search drops? Sonia says, I want to use Jasper to write content, but just a rough draft, and I'll add in my own experience and research. Is that still not okay in Google's eyes? Well, I can't answer for Google. If you go read what we just went over in the, what is it? I don't know, it's developers.google.com, something or other. You could find it. I would say they probably don't want you to use the AI tool for the rough draft. But if you put in your experience and your own research, then how can you really tell where the first draft came from? So Google's pretty strict with like no link building, content written by people. Like they're pretty specific and they're pretty unwavering. They're just like, just fucking write it yourself, Those are my words, not theirs. But they're pretty specific and they don't give you any nuance because it's much easier to just say, just write the content. Everyone stop being so lazy. Google's words, not mine. Everyone stop being lazy. Just write your content. Get an editor to go over it. But in your case here, Sonia, again, those were all Google's words, paraphrased. Sonia, if you put in your own experience and research, I don't think anyone can tell the difference between AI written and if you wrote it yourself. And that's, like someone said here about Alex, like Alex will use use Jasper and then he'll add to it. And then how can you tell? How can you tell if it's Jasper or not? Okay. And Ruby says the extensive automation sounds like it's getting at those sites to just scrape. People also ask questions and answers and publish thousands of them on a site. Yeah, probably so. All right. And okay, still talking laptops. Okay. Tony says you just created and posted an 837 word article while listening to you. And thanks. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hopping in here. Great discussion. All right. CK Ideas says, please, why is my articles ranking different in all countries for every piece of content? Please help. Well, first, don't worry, buddy. You're all right. Everything's fine. You don't need to panic. There are different, like Google has different regions. So there's different Google databases depending on the regions. You can research this. I'm describing it at a super high level, but that's the general idea there. So there are essentially different search engines for each region. So it's ranking differently because there's other content that it's ranking against. Very rough description, but that's the main idea. And Jason says the site-wide versus page level makes me think niche-focused sites will have an edge. It feels like niche sites versus broad mega sites were getting beat down for some years, but this might be a point in our favor. Could be. Yeah, it sounds like, the topical relevancy could be good. And it would be great to see, again, some of the sites that are, really unqualified. Like I feel like Business Insider and maybe Forbes and maybe a couple others, they just started publishing like reviews, some of them good, some of them bad, and they have no topical relevancy in that area at all. And if I answered any of your questions or if I was helpful or slightly entertaining, hit the thumbs up. We got about 21 right now. I don't have any t-shirts. And my VA the other day, she was like, we need to get some Doug t-shirts with just a bald head. And yeah, I don't do much branding. I just want to keep it all real simple, but it is pretty easy just to do the t-shirt thing. And if there's like an event out there, like affiliate gathering or something else, there could be like a bunch of people with my whole head on their t-shirt. It'd be pretty funny. All right, I think we can get through the questions here. We're almost done. Lewis says, what's my favorite secret in monetizing a specific blog article? I have no secrets. If I would say the underutilized thing, one of the hardest things to do is sell your own products. So whether it's a physical product or a digital product, digital is probably going to be easier to get out there. There's lower overhead, but that's highly profitable. It could be, plugin. It could be a little, other kind of piece of software, something like that. But yeah, I would say, just listening and participating in these chats and stuff like that, like you probably have plenty of great ideas about products that many of us need. All right. Yeah, awesome in the chat today. So much discussion. This is great. Walter says, I see people adding audio recordings of their content. I haven't seen that. And Walter wonders if that would be something they would see included in the SERPs in the future. Could be. I don't imagine it too much, but anything's possible. I don't know. Mr. Legend is his birthday today. Cool. Happy birthday. All right. Lewis says, thanks for the content and the interviews. Appreciate the amount of content. I really need to get that, needed to get through the day-to-day grind. Cool. And you're currently at article number 120. Awesome. Oh yeah, an affiliate school says, I agree these large news sites covering every review topic should get hit. I hope they do. Yeah, and I think I don't feel like I trust those reviews. Well, I hardly trust any reviews now unless it's really clear that they're reviewing something. But yeah, I agree. All right, in CK Ideas, your articles are disappearing and reappearing on Google. You've been experiencing it for months. Yeah, it's pretty normal if your site's new. So once you get out of the sandbox, you should be in much better shape. But it's a common thing. So if you, I do have to go now, but basically there's no like great explanation. Google will index something, it'll show up for a little while. They will still have it crawled, but they won't index it. Sometimes it's a content quality issue. I actually recorded a podcast and I answered this question in a lot more depth. I did some research even. So people, if you haven't checked out my podcast, it's called The Doug Show. A lot of the interviews are on YouTube and on the podcast, but there are some episodes, some big topic areas that are only on the audio version. There's a link in the description. There's links in the description. Please check it out. Really appreciate it. Thanks everyone that hit the thumbs up and asked questions. And for all the discussion here, it was a very lively one. And Simplified Gardening says, you have just signed to white label garden planner. Things like this help bring links and funds. Nice. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I think we're done for the day. If you want to check out the accelerator, which I will be participating in, like I mentioned, I'm going to be a co-presenter, very minor. I'm planning on, I told him, hey, I'm pretty lazy. I don't want to do much work. Mondays and Fridays, I don't work then. I take a lot of time off. So yeah, I'm doing just a small portion. Pankill will be the primary presenter. And I've seen some pretty sick demos with outranking. So definitely worth it to check it out. If you're in a spot where you already have a site, if you either have outranking or you are willing to get it and check it out, if you do the work, you can publish 30 articles in 30 days, potentially more if you put in a little more time. I know a few people already pinged me and they said that they're doing they're doing this stuff full time and they actually have the bandwidth and they have experience using outranking or a similar tool. And then they're thinking, hey, I may be able to publish like a hell of a lot more than just 30 articles, which is pretty cool. All right, everybody have a great day out there, and we'll catch you next week. Yeah, should be around next week. Should be. All right, see you later.